Big J, Sunday came and went. Saw some interesting games. And the first game, we had the return of an Uber Primo in the backline. Gee whiz. These injury reports mean nothing anymore.
Mate, he went on holiday. I reckon he just went on holiday. He's just like, yep, I'm going to Bali for a week. Geelong's got a really nice swell. Just tell him I'm injured, boys. That's it. Get the weekend off. And then, mate, he did not skip a beat. Some of these players, they'll come back and they'll take a little bit of time. Yeah, we rushed him, whatever. Half a game, get an injury sub, that kind of thing. Tom Stewart, mate, come on.
I know. It's ridiculous. Let's just go straight into it. We'll talk about the Gold Coast Suns because really this game was about them. They did an incredible job beating the reigning premiers. You know what I mean? This is not a small feat, especially off the back of a couple of really bad performances. They've come out at home. They beat the reigning premiers. And we've got here top scorer, of course. It is one Jared Witts. You picked him at the start because you knew he was going to be a gun ruckman. And a gun ruckman he was. Captain Witts, I love it. Such a great guy. I love Witts.
Mate, I wish I had started him. I wish I'd started him over other players. My life would have been a lot easier right now. And I didn't. And now I'm in the pits. So that's just what happens. Witts is fantastic. Whoever got him in.
35 headouts, 13 disposals, only 1 mark and 3 tackles. So it wasn't like he was earth-shattering either and still went with the 124. That's why you pick Witts. It's a safe option. The Coaches, he had a slightly different role this week. Did really well, though, with a 118. You love to see it with 5 goals, if you don't mind. Thank you for coming, mate.
What's his heat map look like, Joe?
Oh, his heat map. Oh, I can certainly show you right now. It was, 5 goals, 2 behinds for him. That was very impressive. He normally plays behind the ball, but this time they put him forward, and to great effect. Look at that.
Yeah, that's pretty forward. I don't know if you could actually get more forward unless you started the game in the square. So, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's very good, but I wouldn't go near him. You don't pick forwards. So, yeah, I wouldn't go in there on your Lococious. Congratulations on such a great performance. Tug Miller with a 109. Off of 20 disposals. This is very uncharacteristic for Tug Miller. Very slow start to the year. And he's going to be dropping in a lot of price for us if you decide to get him. And I think a lot of us will be getting him. That Gold Coast and Geelong buy is going to be very nice if we could get him in. Hopefully he can start showing us some better performances though, right?
Yeah. There's a train of thought and a few people saying Tug Miller's kind of fallen off, that Matt Rowell and a few other players are taking all his contested ball. I hope it's just the injuries that he had in the preseason that's made him a little bit slower and not necessarily like a role change, because they haven't had to last year, Jared Witts, last year Tug Miller was there and it was just like, give the ball to Tug Miller. He's the one that has to carry the game for us, that kind of thing. Whereas now I think the rest of the team is kind of caught up a little bit with him. And looks to be hurting his score. We'll just wait and see if that's actually true.
Yeah, it's true. He still had 6 tackles, so he's putting in the hard yards, still putting in the effort. Maybe he's taken some time for him to get his engine really going. An 85 TOG, it's quite good still. Nick Holman, 109 for Nick Holman. No one, I don't think, has ever mentioned this guy ever in the Supercoach sense. And for him to crack the 100, congratulations to you, Nick. Not a bad performance for you.
It was a rookie like 3 years ago that was okay, but I totally agree. Kind of out of that. Nothing.
McPherson the 98, Collins the 92, Balladis well 82, G Lockie well. There's nothing. I'm actually really surprised that this guy, I think, has done an immense job for the Gold Coast Suns this year. He just looks so much better. For him to only have a 77, it's actually quite surprising off the back of 24 disposals. So Matt Rowell.
If you look at his stats though, 18 contested possessions, 9 clearances, which is beast. And then he had 11 clangers, Joe. 11 clangers for a disposal of 45. Like,
yikes.
No wonder the score's not there, but man, if the score was there, boy, Matt Rowell, get in my team.
I wouldn't be surprised if people are watching the role, a lot of astute people out there, all right, yeah, you don't look at the scoring, but you look at what the score could have been, and you realize, holy moly, this guy for that price could be unders. It could be the genuine breakout year for Raul. You just need to see that he can have that outside game. He doesn't have all of these clangers to keep killing his scoring, because he is certainly capable.
Yeah. Round 1 was definitely there, 119. Round 2, 94, and then it's really just this week that's actually hurt him, taken him out of considerations, really. But he's got that magic buy. People could really be cheeky and be like, my super pod, Matt Rao.
People were hoping for Noah Anderson to be a super pod, but only ends up with a 71 off 21 disposals. That is very, very underwhelming for a guy that you paid up over 500k for, hoping to be a breakout player. To think that people were considering Anderson, comparing Anderson to a guy like LDU in the preseason. Who do I go for at that 550 price point? My word, the difference between what Anderson's dishing out and what LDU's dishing out, heaven and earth, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing really else. Flanders, if you still have Flanders, yeah, I know you're crying somewhere. Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go. Very, very underwhelming performances.
Yeah, he's kind of been one of those players that just hasn't lived up to expectations. Pre-season, he came out and did okay, and people were like, yep. Some people said no, and they're the ones that really kind of have jumped ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll move on to someone who are really hoping that they can jump ahead of somebody, ahead of everybody else, because right now they are behind everybody else, and that is the reigning premiers, the Cats. Really, the big shining light is Tom Stewart with his 167, massive, incredible return, 13 marks, if you don't mind. But really, outside of him, there are a few more people turned up, but it was a really sad, dour day for the Cats.
Yeah. A lot of people were hoping that they'd be able to get Tom Stewart cheaper. Tom Stewart is not going to be that much cheaper. He's got one more round of having that kind of crappy score in his projections, because this week coming up, round 4 is actually his 3rd game. So by round 5, this guy is not going to be that obtainable anymore. Hopefully he doesn't come out this week and pop out another massive number. But if he does, Tom Stewart might only have 1 week of being cheap this year. And I'm not happy about it, Joe.
Nah, it's all right. I bear good news. He's got Hawthorn this week. So it's very likely that he's going to get tagged. So it's all right. Yeah. It's fine. I think you can get him in even the next week. But for me, I'm putting in my calculations. He's going to be in my team next week. Ridley, I love you to bits, but I'm sorry, brother. I got to get Stewart. He's my favorite defender. He was my number 1 pick player last year, and I can't wait to get him in my side again. Cam Guthrie, 28 disposals, 7 marks. He's done all he can with an 87 TOG, 116 Supercoach. Probably might be a sneaky option there for people. One of those Geelong players with that juicy buy. Isaac Smith, 23 disposals, 11 marks. And you've seen that, I think it's these high mark counts is what's really inflating this Supercoach scoring. Because if you look at their impact on the game, it really just wasn't there. Even Dangerfield, 19 disposals, 5 marks, 4 tackles to get 103. That's actually a really great conversion for what he had. Obviously, though, he's been bolstered up by 3 frees, 4s, and a goal.
Freeze 4 has just kind of elevated that price a little bit. I think it's about 15 or so points, like 5 points for a free kick. So, if that wasn't there, he'd be scoring an 85. We'd be like, Dangerfield, he really cares.
Correct. So you got to look a bit deeper into these sort of things, how consistent, how reliable, replicable it can be, unlikely to be so. Really no one else is relevant until you get it down. Jack Bowes, people were hoping that he could be a mid-price so that we can trade in after his hot start last week. We told people, guys, hold up, wait. Tom Stewart's back. Let's have and see what his role is with Stewart back in the side. And you can see he's given you, with 8 tackles, the guy still only scored a 61. So look, we definitely, for that price point, wouldn't go there. Would you?
Not for me. Not for me.
And this
I floated him round 2, and and I couldn't be happier there. Oh, I thought we were talking about Tanner Bruin. Yeah, Tanner Bruin, he's gone. I don't know who still has Tanner Bruin. The man is a potato. He looks like a potato. Tanner almost sounds like a potato. So, baked potato.
Patana. It's a patana.
Yeah, patana. There you go.
And then you got Asava. Asava was killing it. He was like on 30-odd points at quarter time, and people are laughing. But Asava, he gives you what you know you're going to get. And he knows he's got a limitation that he can't go over. So, not much money to be made from Asava, unfortunately.
It sucks for those people that jumped on him. I think me and you were lucky that we didn't. I think Al Patton and a few people did. He's just never done the scoring before, and I always get worried about his body. Time on ground's fantastic, but 47 for a guy that's like 200k. I think he went up 20 or 30, and then he's plateaued already. So it's not worth it.
No, not worth it. So that brings that game to a close. We'll then move across to the next game, which is Melbourne versus the Swans. They put on an exhibition this week, Melbourne. They really cemented themselves against tough opposition. They're like, nah, we're the gun team. We're going to bounce back strong after what we dished up last week. And my word, they bounced back in epic fashion.
Yeah, Clayton Oliver showed why he's 700k. And I'm pretty sure we've discovered that he's actually gone up in value this week. So that's a bit scary for a guy that's, 700k. Get in my team is all I'm going to say. And I want him. By round 6 or 7, he's in my side. I don't care. I'm spending 2 or 3 trades. Get out of here, Setterfield. Clayton Oliver's coming in. I think that's a pretty fair trade. A lot of people jumping on Brodie Grundy as well after Max Gawn went down the week before.
Yeah.
Score of 143. Potentially, I'm going to do that as well this week. I kind of messed around with my trades after making the video, so we'll see what happens. Ed Langdon, bit of an apparition there, 120. Petrarca, 119. Lockie Hunter, kind of the sneaky pod of the sub 500k starters. You've got the Goey side bottom and stuff, but Lockie Hunter's a big shout as well. Stephen May doing defender things. Cade Chandler, he's the one. Hopefully you guys jumped on him. If you didn't, you'd be crying because the guy is going to be 400k in a few weeks. So next to Sheasel, he might actually be the highest money maker. Just plays everywhere, kicks 3 goals. I mean, the kid had 9 possessions in total for a 90. That's pretty unheard of there. And the big thing about him is that he actually travels all the way up to the back line as well, which is how impressive he is. If he's not getting the ball there, he's doing 2nd, 3rd, 4th pressure axe attempts as well, it's insane, man. This kid's on fire. Van Ruin, really, really good debut with a 89. And then just moving down the list, there's probably not anyone else. McVee scored an 80. That's probably about it, Supercoach rise, really. I know Ben Brown got subbed off. I think that might have elevated Van Ruin's scoring a little bit. But when you're so dominant against a team, more Supercoach points just goes your way. And we can see that by how depleted the Sydney game was, right?
Yeah, you can see. I mean, Melbourne had Melbourne basically had 1,800 of Supercoach points, whereas
it's almost unheard of.
Yeah, whereas Sydney only had 1,500. And as you guys should know by now, if you don't know, there's a limit of 3,300 Supercoach points that is on offer every single game. And it almost is the case where in every situation, the winning team gets more points. In this sort of situation, it was an absolute demolition. Only one player turned up for the Sad Swans, and that was Callum Mills, who I'm pretty sure there were times in that game where they actually had him running with Clary, with Clayton Oliver. And they really needed someone to do that because he was absolutely torching them. So Mills, 103. We all loved Callum Mills, 25 disposals, 6 marks, 4 tackles. He's one of the best two-way runners in the comp. Part of the problem why you never wanted to start him is because the uncertainty in his role, and that because he could be put down to these accountability roles like he did against Oliver. Lloyd with a 93, almost showing like he's trying to wind back the clock and show us that he's still seagulling at his very best. Tom McCartan, he had a great performance as a defender. Unfortunately, when the ball is down there so much, it's no surprise that the defender has a big score, like Lloyd, like Blakey. No surprise you've got 3 defenders with fairly decent scores in the back line. Errol Goulden a bit disappointing, but when your team is getting absolutely shellacked, someone who plays primarily forward, it's unlikely that he's going to feature really high in the scoring. For him to be among their best, even ahead of someone like Parker, for example, it's actually quite reassuring that even in a situation where the Swans are demolished, he's still not giving you a crap score. So, Errol Goulden is very good, I think.
He's a top 6 forward for me. As you say, the Swans got smashed. He had some brilliance in that game. He's only come out with 15 touches, which isn't much.
Yeah.
But how high impact he was, it's just too good, Joe. 3 frees against. So if that wasn't there, potentially he'd be up to almost 100 points for his performance on the weekend. And if he was, you wouldn't be complaining about him. So I know some people are trying to offload him. Sydney will bounce back. Goulden will bounce back. The options in that forward line aren't really there. So you got to be pretty happy with that.
Absolutely. The one we want to shout out here is Joel Amadi. He is a 200k player who's on the bubble. 78 Supercoach points of 16 disposals, 4 marks. He kicked 3 behinds. So you can imagine what could have been if it was more accurate. That 68% Supercoach would be a lot higher. And when you look at his heat map, he's playing third tall with pinch hits in the ruck. So that's what separates him from the other rookies. He's a young player, not in his first season. He's playing third tall, so he's not taking the best defender, and he also pinch hits in the ruck with some CBAs. So it's quite impressive. I think there's definitely a lot of upside. There's a lot of people dubbing it the Amadi party. They're going to be jumping on Amadi. They might be trading out a guy like Warple, for example, swinging someone into the midfield so they can trade Amadi in. He's got Port Adelaide this week, so he's up against Scott Lysette, which could be a fairly free matchup while he pitch hints with. I personally won't go there myself, but for those of you who are courageous, he's guaranteed to make you money. He's averaging 100 points, so it's quite good for that price.
Yeah, if you had like a Flanders or a Bruin or even a Callahan, if you're not happy with him, and you had, let's say 30 odd trades, I think he's a fair shout to swap between the two and hope he does quite well. He's booked in to score booked in to make probably another 100k at a minimum. So if you can do that, he could end up turning to Charlie Curnow style last year and getting to that 400k mark, just depending on his run, depending on how Franklin and a few other players went. But it's that dual role. So the ruck time plus the forward time is what's really boosting him, like we've seen with other players like Charlie Comben this year as well.
Absolutely. So that brings that game to a close, and we get to our final game, which was... I was actually really impressed by this game. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it so much. You know what? That was Fremantle. Fremantle can get stuffed. I don't really want to talk about Fremantle because I want to talk about West Coast. I think West Coast did a really impressive job fighting against the odds. I mean, they really were against the odds. And normally when a team loses, we put the sad music on. But for West Coast, because I have so much respect for them, the way they dished their performance, I'm actually going to give them the rock music as well. They did really well. They had 7 injuries that game. And at one point, they were playing one person down on the field. And they were well and truly in it. They really were in it for a lot of the game. It sort of just fell away from them towards the end of the game. Spearheaded by Sam Petrevsky-Seaton. You never would have imagined with that sort of hairstyle that he's able to dish up 116 points. He's a very identifiable on the screen, isn't he?
Hey, if hairstyle was kind of the feature of what made players score well and do well in Supercoach, or just in AFL in general, I can see why Oliver has been how good he is, because that hairstyle is shocking too. Yeah. Picked up from Carlton. SPS is kind of fixing up his career a little bit. I think kind of the pressures of playing in WA and away from Melbourne and things like that have kind of made him a better player because he wasn't putting out these numbers before. Maybe it's less of a stacked team as well, which definitely helps. Barras coming out with the 110. Jinby's the one we're looking for, 104. I mean, this kid's on fire. He should have been 100% owned. I don't know why he wasn't. So it is what it is. Jaden Hunt, 98. Tim Kelly, 97. Oscar Allen is the big one. So some people did have him in their forward line. Yes, he scored 3 goals and 3 behinds, but the weeks before have been pretty shocking. So hats off for you for keeping him this long. 97's okay, but Chandler scored a 90. So, and I got him, 100k cheaper.
Exactly.
Come on, guys. Andrew Gaff, 93. Moving down that list, there's probably no one else. Tom Cole is a bit of a shout, 79. Noah Long, 78. So, making some massive scores for those that actually had him, like yourself. And that's probably it. No, we're not talking about Campbell Chesser. He made his break even. Now he's injured, Joe. He's made his break even and now he's injured. So that's it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, mate. It's not going to happen.
People were celebrating that he made his break even. Congratulations to Chesser. But yeah, guys, if you wanted an excuse to get rid of him, you got it. He's out for a couple, 2-3 weeks. So
at least he didn't tank his season and tank his scoring and was ended up at 105k or something. And then you have to pay up to actually get rid of him. That would have hurt a lot of people.
Just a little bit. We move across to the actual winners of this game, who were not convincing by any stretch at any point. But Caleb Sarong, well done to you. A very deserving medalist from that derby, or derby if you're from over there watching us. 35 disposals with 2 marks, 8 tackles. You know what I mean? That is so good. And he had no goals to get that 146. Very, very impressive. 16 contested possessions, absolute beast. That is like Clayton Oliver numbers. So congratulations to him. Sean Darcy, we told you guys, look, if you were gonna hold him, you gotta hold him this week. He's got a really easy matchup against BJ Williams. He's gonna go big. He might even hit his break even. He is a captain option this week. So for those of you who held him, you got his 132. For those of you that captained him, you got double that, obviously, of which you should be really happy. But he has lost some money, and there's a lot of people talking about who they trade him to. Thankfully, there are a lot of options out there. Namely, I think there are 3. You can either go the Grundy route, like you mentioned before, or you can pay up to get him to a Wits, or even to go to an English, who's absolutely tearing it up. So look, it's not end of the world for you Sean Darcy owners. He hasn't tanked in price too much, and I think it's a luxury. What do you reckon?
Look, I put out my team review. I said, get out of my team. I've kind of waned on that a little bit. Opposition versus him, he does really well. So just kind of negating other ruckman scoring just from how he is. His scoring capacity this year was always dependent on how Freo went. So he's not a bad ruckman. I never said his scoring was bad. But if he doesn't have the people to hit to, there's that infamous photo against North Melbourne. If he doesn't have a forward line that can get points and give him scoring chain points, then that as well. So I've held fat for this week. Yes, he'll drop in price a tiny bit, but he should bounce back. Yeah,
52 hitouts.
Look at West Coast, right? Bailey Williams got 14. So that was it. He was versing a chair. He sat down on the chair. The chair gave him a splinter. He gave him 14 hitouts, and then that was it, Joe. Those hitouts probably happened when Sean Darcy wasn't on field and just resting.
Exactly, against Luke Jackson, perhaps. He had 78 tog. It could have been more. That 132 could have been a lot more if he wasn't stuck on the bench for 10, 15 minutes in that last quarter. Sam Switkowski, no one really has him. I have him in draft. Well done, Sammy Boy, for 107. Luke Ryan, 105. People are questioning whether or not this guy's a top 6 defender. 80 tog, 19 disposals, 7 marks. He's really reliant on the marks coming his way. Fremantle with their chipping style. Personally, I don't think you can reliably go with Luke Ryan whilst Hayden Young exists, eating into it a little bit, I think. So, Luke Ryan's one that you got to keep an eye on, I think. James Aish with 102. Luke Jackson, much better performance for him this week. He has been lambasted by the WA media. Poor kid. He's not that old. He's still quite young. I think he's like 22. for a lot of pressure to be put on him. He really worked his way into really good spots this week. Still got a bit of fumbles. Once he finds his confidence, it's a question mark over how much more ruck time he'll get and eat into Sean Darcy's time. That was the big question mark as well for Sean Darcy. So if you feel like there's a lot of question marks, you can certainly move Sean Darcy on if you want to, right?
Yeah, Freo won this game. It seemed to work out quite well for them. Yes, Jackson wasn't being majority ruck or taking as much, so I really think that they're going to try and keep a similar time frame and things like that for this team going into the next time, because Freo wants to make finals. I think the team and the coach is good enough that they identify, hey, this works, keep going. Moving down the list, Brayshaw 84. It's okay. People expected more, especially for such a dominant game. It's kind of, he's done. Hayden Young 84 as well. So similar story there. Had a really good game one. People jumped on as a 500k option. Dacos, even like Ridley, I think I'd be more confident playing at the moment. Moving down that list, that's probably it, right? Brendan Cox, I know a lot of people brought him in. Had something like 16,000 teams brought him in, and he scored a 35. So good job, guys.
Yeah, you got played, guys. I'm very sorry about that. You got absolutely played. He's done terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Got moved around, so, yeah.
He did get moved around. Exactly. So that brings these discussions of these games to a close. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Yes, it is a bit later than normal. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of things go on off the air. It's been a very busy week for us away from Supercoach, which has delayed the uploads for these. Will definitely not be this late moving forward, especially with really short turnarounds in the weeks to come, right?
Yeah, try and get something out every day as well. So as Joe says, no excuses, but you'll see better performance from us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you like what you saw, we're pumping out all of this content for you guys so that you can enjoy this ride and make some really informed decisions. I know I'm enjoying it from way back in the pack. We're just giving some people a head start, right, mate?
100%. Top 1K, here we go.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so that you don't have to. Bye for now.